The last time I saw Amora, she was climbing into a stranger's car, wearing a tight red dress. Femi wasn't far away, sitting on the curb, smoking like his life depended on it, his hands shaking as he lit another cigarette. I don't think they noticed me watching. I grew up in the same compound as Femi and Amora. Their story is one I'll never forget, and it still haunts me to this day. You see, they were just like any other kids when we were younger, full of life, always laughing, always together. But things started falling apart slowly, like a pot cracking bit by bit until it couldn't hold water anymore. Their mom, Mama Femi, was a single mother. Their dad died when they were very young, so she had to step up and provide for them. And let me tell you, she worked hard. Too hard. She had a small shop where she sold fabrics, and when that wasn't enough, she started doing extra jobs in the evenings. We hardly ever saw her. She left early in the morning and came back late at night, sometimes long after we kids had already gone to bed. At first, she tried her best to keep everything together. She'd cook food for them before leaving, check on their homework when she could, and scold them when they misbehaved. But as the years went by, the stress of working non-stop weighed her down. She started leaving everything in the hands of their house help, Auntie Rose. Auntie Rose wasn't much older than us, maybe 19 or 20 at the time. She was supposed to help with the cooking and cleaning, but honestly, she barely did anything. She spent most of her time on her phone, gossiping with friends, or lounging outside. We all knew she was lazy, but no one dared to tell Mama Femi. She was the only adult around, so Femi and Amora were left in her care, whether they liked it or not. The real problem started when Auntie Rose's boyfriend, Deo, started coming over. At first, he'd sneak in during the afternoons when Mama Femi wasn't around. He was one of those guys who thought he was cool, always wearing dark sunglasses, chewing gum, and acting like he owned the world. The first time I saw him, he was leaning against the compound wall, smoking a cigarette. I remember thinking he looked out of place, but I didn't say anything. Who was I to interfere? Femi and Amora were curious about Deo, especially Femi. He was 13 at the time, that age where boys start wanting to act grown up. Deo noticed this and started treating Femi like his little brother. He'd call him over, teach him how to blow smoke rings, and even give him his own cigarettes. At first, Femi just coughed and laughed, but soon, he was smoking like he'd been doing it his whole life. Amora didn't get involved at first. She was a quiet girl, always keeping to herself. But Deo didn't come alone, he always brought his friends. They'd sit around, drinking and laughing, and I could see Amora watching them from the corner of her eye. One day, one of Deo's friends started talking to her. I didn't hear what he said, but I could see her blushing and giggling. That was the beginning of her own troubles. It didn't take long for things to spiral out of control. Femi started skipping school. He'd spend his days hanging out with Deo and his gang, smoking and playing cards. When the teachers came to ask Mama Femi why he wasn't coming to class, she was too busy to deal with it. "I'll talk to him," she'd say, but she never really did. I don't blame her, she was exhausted. But Femi took her silence as permission to keep doing whatever he wanted. Amora, on the other hand, started dressing differently. She went from wearing simple skirts and sandals to tight jeans and flashy tops. She started hanging out with older boys, and soon, rumors began to spread. People in the neighborhood said they saw her getting into fancy cars with men twice her age. I didn't want to believe it at first. Amora was always so sweet, so shy. But one night, I saw it with my own eyes. A black car pulled up outside their house, and she got in without even looking back. My heart sank. One evening, Mama Femi came home earlier than usual and caught Deo and his gang smoking in her living room. She was furious. I could hear her shouting from my house. Is this what you've been doing in my absence? Bringing riffraff into my home? Deo and his friends scrambled out, but the damage was already done. She turned to Femi and Amora, demanding answers. But instead of apologizing, they lashed out at her. Femi said, "What do you expect, Mom? You're never here." Amora too replied, "You think just feeding us is enough? You don't even know us." I saw Mama Femi break down in tears that night. For the first time, it hit her just how far apart they had grown. But by then, it was already too late. A few months later, everything came crashing down. Femi was caught stealing from a neighbor's house. He said he needed money to buy cigarettes, but everyone knew it was more than that. He'd fallen in with the wrong crowd, and they were using him to do their dirty work. The neighbor threatened to call the police, but Mama Femi begged him not to. She promised to discipline Femi, but deep down, I think she knew she'd lost control. Amora's situation was even worse. One night, she came home beaten and bruised. She'd been with one of her older boyfriends, and things had gone wrong. She wouldn't say what happened, but the look in her eyes told me everything. She was broken, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And there was nothing anyone could do to fix it. Now, years later, I still think about them. Femi never finished school. Last I heard, he was wandering the streets, smoking his life away. Amora disappeared shortly after that night. Some say she moved to another city, others say she's still here, just lost. And Mama Femi? She aged so quickly. Her once bright eyes are now dull and tired. She still works hard, but you can see the regret on her face every time someone mentions her kids. She tried her best, I know she did. But sometimes, trying isn't enough. Their story taught me something important: children need more than food and shelter. They need presence, guidance, and love. Without it, they can get lost in ways you can't even imagine. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, comment and turn on the notification bell so as to get notified anytime new video is posted.